you find your melody at Heid Music.
Good musical morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Bench, where we take you behind, above, and beyond the repair bench here at Heid Music. Good morning. How's everyone doing today? Good morning, Justin. Good morning, Drake. Anil, hello. Chris, Marty, good morning, good morning. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Thursday? Yesterday here in Green Bay was just absolutely gorgeous. It was very nice. I had some school stops, and I'll be honest, my walk up to the schools yesterday in the beautiful, beautiful weather is kind of just twiddling my thumbs just a little bit, just taking my time between the van and the school. So, you know, I was enjoying it, that's for sure. It was beautiful out. I have no idea what the weather's supposed to be out today. Maybe, isn't it? Rain? It's rain this afternoon. Well, yesterday I was walking on sunshine, and I'm happy about that. But today, we're here. We're here, and we're gonna have a lot of fun today. Something like that. What's in your cup? What are you drinking? I've got coffee, my standard. This is actually from Luna Coffee. Yeah, I think it's Luna Coffee. I think, I don't remember what blend it was, breakfast blend or something like that, but it's a local coffee shop here in Green Bay. Well, it's actually in De Pere, which is consider it Greater Green Bay, maybe. I think I talked about this a while ago. My son had Christmas kind of buy some fundraiser. That's the word I'm looking for. Wowzer. Fundraiser, and you could buy some bags of coffee, and we were going to give it away for gifts and everything. And then we have these friends that we just didn't see. We haven't seen them in a while, and that was going to be the gift. So it's like, okay, it's been 2 months, maybe we should just have this coffee. So even though it's a little older, it's still delicious, so that's good. Planet Perk Oshkosh. Wow, not shop coffee today, Marty. Wow, oh geez. Springing for the good stuff. That's nice, that's nice. Today, I've got something different a little bit. Got a snare drum. We're gonna change a head on a snare drum. That's gonna be exciting and fun. So I'm gonna do that today, and then the second half, or a little bit more, Matt's got a really big refret job that he's gonna take. So after we change this head on the snare drum, Matt's actually gonna take the second half of the stream and bring it to the end and take us home. Look, I got this is so funny. That's the hat from the Streamiversary, right? And it's right above my head, and it kind of looks like I'm wearing it a little bit. Huh? Can you go up? Look at, I'm wearing the hat. I'm always celebrating this stream. Whew. Celebrate that coffee a little bit more. Yeah. Hey, speaking of celebrating, wow, speaking of segues, do you guys know that it's March? Do you guys know that it's Music in Our Schools month? Celebrating music in our schools? Isn't that neat? And do you know that Heid Music does a thing called the Big Ten Plus? It's this really, really cool kind of competition a little bit to help celebrate and push music in our schools. And I got a poster about it. Look at that. Big Ten Plus. So what happens here is if you go to heidmusic.com, you can submit, I gotta get my camera to work for me, you can submit pictures of your music programs. And then you, my dear chat, right now and every single day, you can go to heidmusic.com and you can vote for your favorite picture. And you can do that every single day. In fact, if you know a school program in the area that should be participating, they should. Because the person who gets the most votes, this is the kind of stuff that you can win. Now, I don't know if my camera's being a little funny. Hey, friend, can you just chill for a second? There we go. You stay there so I can move. Some of these prizes, you can get a Barry saxophone. That's a Barry sax, brand new. You can win that. How about a tuba? Oh, how about a tuba? Huh? How about a clarinet? How about a piccolo? Oh, come on. Viola, the guitars, the prizes on this are ridiculous. We already have well over 100 submissions for these, and you can go and vote every single day, and you should. After this stream, go to HeidMusic.com, go vote for your favorite pictures. And there's some really, really cool pictures, and there's some really cool programs out there really, really pushing this. So Big 10 Plus, we're gonna be talking about it every stream for Celebrate Music in Our Schools month. And shout out to their, like, of course, like, it's really cool that this is just me personally speaking. But I guess but I think this is a really, really cool event that Heid Music puts on, but also shout out to all these vendors. You can go see the prize list and the vendors that are participating as well. I mean, that's pretty neat. Snare drum, guitars, keyboards, a bari sax and a tuba. What? That's wild. That really is a musical magic, good music. Oh, man, I tried to make something happen there. It just didn't work, but here we are. There it is. Thank you. HeidMusic.com/Big10Plus. Go check it out. It's really cool. And check it out every single day, and see the new pictures, see what the music programs are doing, and support music in our schools. The arts, let's support it. They're the best thing in the world, right next to cheese pizza. Cheese pizza in our schools month. That's what's coming in April. But anyways, go check that out, okay? Will you do that? Will you do that for me? Thanks, I appreciate that. So, I think we should go right into fixing some stuff. What do y'all think? We should start fixing some stuff? So I've got this snare drum. You coming? You gonna work for me? There we go. I got this snare drum here. Let me get it out of the case. It just needs a little TLC. Pickle boy, welcome. It's not in that bad of a condition, but we just need to change the top head. The bottom head is okay. It's a little worn, but I think we get a little bit more life out of it. So we're gonna just change the top head on this. Swap it out, clean it up a little bit as best we can, and get her tuned up, eh? This one does not have an internal dampening system, so we're gonna, per request, we're gonna install my patent pending custom internal dampening system, which actually, Jillian, can you do me a favor? You know this stuff? Can you get me just like that much? Yeah, thank you. So, should we get started? Should we hop on? So I'm gonna start with things that are scary. A drill. Hashtag not sponsored by Ryobi. Maybe one day. And then we have this special bit. It's a key. It's a drum key. It's actually also a bit. So we can use a drill like this. Just like that. Okay, and we're gonna take the head off, and we're gonna use this drill to kind of speed up the process a little bit. You can follow me now, little camera. It's okay. Thank you. And we're just gonna hit it just a little bit to start in that star pattern. Ouch, just pinched my finger. A little bit more. Crank this up here faster. Whoops. All right, so the reason for the star pattern, and little by little, and so we just went around, there's the high potential of it warping the rim and the drum itself. So that star pattern kind of goes back and forth to keep it kind of even tension across so that the rim sets easy into the drum and it doesn't warp at all. A little tip here, I also like to make sure that when I take a rim off of a drum that I put it back in the same orientation as it was. So I will take a Sharpie marker, which is easy to erase after the fact. I'm just gonna hit a mark here to know that it's lining up with the snare throw. So that when I put it back on, I want the rim to reorientate to that part of the drum. Because as best as we try to make sure it's nice and even and consistent throughout, there's a chance that it could warp, it could change a little bit. And while this is metal, the chances are very low. Stuff still moves all the time, constantly, no matter the material. So, all right, so this is the inside of a drum. You ever seen the inside of a drum? That's pretty cool, huh? So the lugs and everything here are just screwed in on the inside. And this is a good chance now that the drum's off to shake out all the dust and debris out of it because it's probably full of gunk. There we go. Wait, I don't want to use that. We're going to use one of these. It's got a polishing cloth, that's just a little bit of pledge to clean it up a little bit. Which I need more pledge, I'm almost out. Clean off the bearing edge. That's this part right here, the bearing edge. And then while I'm at it, I'm gonna see if I can't just clean up the outside a little bit. If this was a full like cleaning restore kind of thing, we would take all these lugs off. I would take some like really, really fine steel wool and really soapy water and clean all this up. That's kind of got this, the plating itself is kind of speckled and bubbling a bit. But we're just doing a general head exchange, and I just like to get a lot of the gunk off as best as I can. The grime, as it were, because we are Grimestoppers. Grimestoppers, push the button at them. Nice. You know, actually funny, I think this is a Pearl Sensitone drum, right? A Pearl Concert Series drum is what this is. And then if I look on the Big 10 Plus prize, Big 10 Plus, HeidMusic.com/Big 10 Plus, go check it out. A school could win a Pearl concert snare drum. Huh. All they have to do is submit a photo and have folks like us go vote for them. That's pretty neat. HeidMusic.com, Big 10 Plus. Some of those pictures are pretty cool. In fact, chat, I'll call to action right now. You can do this thing where you can kind of like have two windows open at once. Yeah? Why don't you go check out some of those photos? Anything that really jumps out to you? Anything that's like, oh, I really like this photo. I like this one. This is cool. Put it in the chat, y'all. All right, so now we got a general cleaning of the outside. It's very quick. We're not doing a ton to that quite right now. We're going to do the same for the head, the rim, sorry. I'm just going to tip this over, get all these old lugs out, excuse me. Since I know the orientation because I put that mark there. The old head we don't need anymore. I'm going to set that to the side. Let's go ahead and do the same thing that we did on the frame of the shell. We're going to go ahead and do for the rim, which is wipe it down a bit. Just got to be careful that you don't accidentally wipe away your Sharpie mark, but it should be strong enough. We're not like deep diving into this. Again, we're not doing a full restore or anything on this drum. Just a head change. Good, and make sure you get the inside really nice and clean too, because this is the part where that sits against the new drum head we're gonna have and use. Any good chunks or gunk off of there. Good. Now, head selection. I'm just going to the basic. You can either do Evans, Remo, they're all good, but a basic coated snare drum is what we're gonna be using. Just like this. We get the new head on, but I had mentioned that we're going to install a patent pending, the LaGrave permanent internal dampening system, which is not mine. I can't actually claim credit to it. I have no idea not pending, but maybe. So all that is I've got this, I found that this fabric works really, really well. And what this is a silver polishing cloth that we use. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a strip that's, I don't know, about an inch, inch and a half wide throughout, and I'm gonna go ahead and lay it underneath the head. Really, really close to where the logo is gonna be. Because what the school wants, and I feel like a lot of schools kind of want this in the middle school level especially, as they're really just mainly focusing on learning technique and things. They're not quite always focused on like the tone and things of that nature. And what they're typically looking for is kind of a little bit more of a drier sound, almost like putting a moon gel on a snare drum, getting rid of those overtones and harmonics, just a little bit more crisper sound is what they're looking for. But middle school percussionist being middle school percussionist, and before anyone gets mad, I'm a percussionist and I was a middle school percussionist. So I'm exactly this person. I was, not anymore, I think. We mess with things. In fact, I was just out of school talking about new heads. And let me just share this story with you real quick. And as I'm sharing that story, I'm going to go ahead and cut this strip down to the size that I'm looking for. But middle school percussionist, let me go ahead and tell you what I did. I didn't do the repair or anything, of course, but we had a snare drum go out for a new head, pretty much the same service that I'm doing right now. And when it came back with said new head, I decided, well, this is the snare drum I use. I'm gonna take my drumstick, and in that brand new coated ambassador head, I'm gonna go ahead and scratch my name in it with the drumstick. So I took that and I just went through the coating and wrote Adam in it. Wasn't my drum, it was the school's drum, but it was the drum that I was using for the concert. I didn't get yelled at so much as the director saw that and just sighed and just walked away. That's worse. You're so right. And I mean, knowing what I know now, I can just only imagine what else that band director had dealt with, had gone through, all that stuff. And then for me to just be like, look at, I claim this drum, that's fine, right? Wowzer. I share that story to say, like, middle schoolers, it's an interesting time for most people trying to figure out who they are. Percussionists tend to goof around quite a bit. So putting this underneath the head as like a permanent thing means they can't goof with it. They can't mess with it at all, okay? So it puts that dampening in there. It's not moon gel, and this one doesn't have an internal dampener. A lot of them have this like arm with this felt pad that you can adjust to do pretty much exactly what we're trying to accomplish now, except it's adjustable and you can take it off for those overtones and resonance if you want it. But this, again, just makes it more permanent. It's what they want, it's what they're looking for at this middle school level. So that's what they're going to get. So I put that strip there, and now we're just gonna try to tighten it. I'm gonna try to move it down a little bit, just like that. So it just sits underneath the head. You can kind of see that. Trying to make it nice and straight and nice looking. This is something that I use on my drum set a lot too, for if you have toms that you're struggling with way too much resonance, especially if you're miking them, especially low toms, 14, 16 inch low toms. Do this, take a little strip of fabric, put it underneath the head, right by the logo. And the further down you go, the more dead it'll be. So just putting it right on top is gonna take a little bit. If you want more, like I think my low toms, I tend to go right across the logo, a little bit further down. It still gives you resonance, it still gives you that punch, but it takes away some of it. And it does help with miking, drums and whatnot. Let's see. Now, as I put the snare drum back on the rim, I had a mark and we marked it. And I didn't wipe it away, it's right there. Here we go. So now we start to put it back together. Good. Okay, we're gonna make sure that strips where we want it. We're gonna tighten it as we go too. And this is where we want it. Excellent. So now, before we get going here, we gotta clean off our lugs. And I'm just gonna take a cloth, a bit of denatured alcohol, just clean off those threads real quick. Just gonna re-grease them. And I used to do an oil for these, but I've switched to more of a lanolin grease kind of thing. And in fact, I have this big tube of older, but not quite old. It's actually tuning slide grease that I've been using for a really, really long time, and I like it and it works. Keeps the threads clean, keeps them lubricated without freezing them. So that's nice. So get these all cleaned off real quick. What we got plans for the weekend? What's everyone doing? I am off to Indy for the Horizon League because both the men and the women's team at UWGB won. So they're both going, and I am the director of the pep band, so I'm going to be going with, and it'll be a good time. So all I'm doing is here, I'm taking morning Seth, a little bit of that grease, putting it on the end. We're going to feed it through and just give it 2 just quick turns to get it lined up. I'm not globbing it on, I'm just putting a little bit on. It'll make get a little bit of a mess that we'll clean up. But we're going to go around, get these on. So this is that excess of that cloth under there. We'll trim that up. Because again, we kind of want to remove any temptation for a middle schooler to go goofing with that. Middle school percussionists. What can I say? All right, just a couple more. Oops. And after this, I'm going to show you, it's just a head change, Seth. So just cleaning it up a little bit, and then I installed, what did I call it? Adam McGrave patent not pending permanent internal dampener, which is just a piece of the silver cloth cut in underneath the head. The school is looking for more of a crisp sound. All right, so next, I'm going to show you what I do. And I feel like this could be controversial. There could be some people going, I can't believe you do that. Well, I do. And y'all can just kind of calm down. So to speed this next process up, I come back to the drill. What? I do, but I slow it way down. And then if you push the setting up here, you can bring it so that the resistance stops it at a really, like it's not turning at all, I'm barely hanging on, right? So that's gonna help get these to a general setting and get them in fast. So, and I go start a pattern, and just when it starts to catch, I stop, because I'm just looking to get these down in. Go across, up, crossed, over, crossed, over, cross, just like that. So they're still loose, but I'm going to check this strip here and pull it tight, because I want it to be tight against the head across that whole area. I don't want it to kind of be sagging on the inside. We have room to go. So I've got this almost at the lowest setting, and we're going to go one more time. So you can hear that clicking is when the tension starts to hit. And the drum is still pretty loose. That cracking you hear is nothing to be worried about. It's just the glue underneath the rim starting to crack a little bit. So this here, you can kind of tell it got a little loose under there. So I'm going to just manually loosen up here and try to pull that a little tighter, and then we'll come back to it and retighten this little area. Just want to pull this a little tighter. Come on. There, I think that's good. Retighten those to about what they were. That looks better. I'm just gonna pull this up a little bit, go one more round. Close. All right, now we're gonna go through and hand tune these, and this has got a little feel first. So you can see that sits right across up there. Looks nice, pretty even, and that takes away a lot of those. It still resonates, right? But it's not, it doesn't have a ton of the overtones when we put the snare on, which isn't tuned yet. We got to look at that. It's a bit more crisp. Doesn't have a lot of that ringing, which is what they were looking for. And if it still had ringing, or if I wanted it super dead, I can move that down all the way to the middle, which would really, like, it would kind of probably sound like this, which is, some people want that. So, this might be hard to hear. You got a snare drum stick. Just gonna go through quick, in the low spots. And I like to tune the heads a little high as I go through, because I know they're gonna rest and settle. So if I tune them up a little bit, it like as they start to stretch a little bit, getting into spot and settle down, they'll lower into a really, really nice pitch. But then I don't have to worry about coming back, and if the band director's not used to or doesn't know how to tune a drum, if I bring it kind of high, it hopefully and usually settles down to a nice acceptable level. So we'll go on that a little bit more. I want to talk about the snare throw right here. That's what this is here. It's a lever that moves the snare. This is called actually the snare, up and down, which brings that pressure onto the drum. So this one doesn't have any hitches, anything like that, but I want you to know that you can totally take this apart. If you loosen this right here, this knob brings the tension up or down, but if you go all the way out, just like this, you can take that right off. It actually comes right off of the sliding port right there. Oh, something fell. What was that? It's this lug right here. That goes right there. So if you have any like hitches in this, I found that if you grease this point here where it slides up and down, grease that, and there's 3 pivot points in the arm itself too. I'm gonna put this on before I show you that. Underneath here, this might be hard to see, but underneath the snare drum, there's 3 pivot points. If you get some grease or oil on that, you might find that you just brought this snare throw back to life. Because oiling and greasing where points metal on metal moves, it's really, really important, really helps it. All right, let's get this back to pretty close. So when I'm tuning a snare drum, what I'm looking for is a nice balance between the crisp sound of a snare and without it being too tight or too low. So this is really way too low, right? The super low sound, the snare, the buzz is really washy. That's still pretty washy, that lasts for quite a while. So I'm gonna bring it up a little bit more. So that's nice, crisp sound that snare drum has. This is a metal snare drum, so it projects really, really well. So I tried a quiet volume to make sure the snare engages, because sometimes let's see what happens when we go too tight. So I go quiet. Sounds good, and then I go louder to see what it sounds like. Because if it's loud, it might wash out. But if you over tighten it, it really dampens and deadens the sound. But if you go too quiet and it's too tight, it kind of gets this like weird overtone. And what's happening is the snare on the bottom is actually pushing down on the head and changing the tone of it. So once the tone of the drum starts to change, that means it's too tight. We can definitely back off a little bit. That's a little too washy. That sounds pretty good. That sounds like a good snare drum. I think that sounds pretty good. And that is how I change a snare drum head. Quick, easy, efficient. So what I'll do is I'll tune this up a little bit more, and I'm gonna trim off the excess cloth here, just so that no one messes or tries to tear it off. And that drum is good to go, just like that. Bada bing, bada boom. Any questions? Anyways, yeah, so we're gonna send it over to Matt here. He's got a refret to go on a cool guitar, but make sure in between, like as you're watching him and doing stuff, check out the Big 10 Plus thing. Like just go look at all the photos. Did anyone go look at the pictures? You guys got a favorite? I don't know if you can actually tell me, that might be weird, but go check it out. Yeah? Okay. Well, let's head on over to Matt and see what he's got going in there with the Matt Chat featuring Matt with Matt.
It's the Matt Chat featuring Matt with Matt.
Here you go, Matt.
Thank you.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Today we're working on the Bass of Doom, I guess. That's the note that was on the case. I don't think this is the actual Bass of Doom, but it looks like it. So we're going to be changing the strings up to accommodate lower tunings. So it's already in drop C, I believe. Yeah, drop, well, it's almost in drop C. It's somewhere funky right now, but we're going to C sharp standard, so that's kind of cool. A lot of people accomplish that with a 5-string set of strings, but they don't put the highest one on. Today we're going with the beefy slinkies, so we don't need to have an extra string laying around. What that does entail is adjusting the nut width, or the nut grooves here, to accomplish, or to accommodate those big strings. These are already pretty much at the right height, so we're only going to be widening them. There's not, one thing that I look for on an instrument that has buzzing is if the strings are moving side to side in the nut slots, and these ones are. That can cause a little bit of buzzing when you're really digging in, playing hard. Instead of the string just kind of being locked into place here, it can move from side to side as well. And that is not good. It can ruin sustain noticeably. There's lost motion in there. The string isn't just vibrating in between the 2 points, the bridge and the nut, and that's just not ideal. So we're going to start by taking the strings just off. We don't need them anymore. They're a little dead, so no point in saving them either. There we go. Because it's set up to be string through, I'm gonna cut them in half. I don't want to have to pull the squiggly ends from the tuner through holes in the body and potentially scratch something. That's not a good idea. I've already worked with this particular customer before. We have some Seymour Duncan quarter pounders for pickups. It's just a great sounding bass. It plays awesome. It's an American Professional 2, I believe, the sequel. So unlike most sequels, this sequel was better than the original. I think they solved a lot of, well, they didn't solve any problems, but the second series, second version of the American Professional Series is just awesome on all their instruments. They're a joy to work on. All right. So these frets look fine. I don't really think they need to be polished up too much. We're just going to use a little bit of compound to get them to shine up. I recently discovered that this Meguiar's polish and compounds are just awesome. They're at Harbor Freight. I'm sure they're cheaper elsewhere, but that's just where I found them first. And they've completely replaced everything I used to do to buff out like drop fills, you know, and touch up stuff. They're just awesome. They work so much better. I had been using Novus plastic polishing compound before, and it worked fine, but this can like really make sanding marks disappear, and the other stuff didn't as well. So all we're doing is cleaning up that grime just a little bit. There's still a lot of finish on the frets too. That's kind of a problem with maple fretboards. They install the frets, then install the finish, and it just kind of pools up, and it can be unsightly. All right, nice and shiny, good as new. If this needed any sort of fretwork, I probably would have done that first. But this bass comes in a lot, so I'm always keeping an eye on it, and it's a good way to catch stuff early so it doesn't become a problem. So no fretwork today. Okay, so our lowest string here is a 130. Usually a normal like medium set is 105. So this is pretty much the low B string from a 5-string set. And we're just barely making it through the bridge. Just a little bit of room to spare. Okay. There we go, strings are in. Now we'll cut them to length. My favorite part of these American Professional basses is how nice the tuners are. On basses especially, the A string can be too short, or not short enough, I guess. You kind of want as many wraps as you can fit so the string breaks over the nut at as steep of an angle as you can get, given this, you know, the space requirements here, given how little room we have. Just like having a wiggly string that's moving side to side, a string that doesn't have enough bend in it as it crosses over the nut can also vibrate. There's not enough down pressure at the nut, and so there can be more lost motion. There's sympathetic vibrations that happen behind the nut, and that can cause a ton of annoying buzzing. That's why Fender basses, anything with a flat headstock like this, is going to have a string tree. The regular guitars have one too. It accomplishes the same task. It makes for a steeper break angle, eliminating buzzing. A lot of times basses and guitars will have, like, more so guitars will have staggered tuners to try to combat that buzzing. They don't always work. Thinking specifically of like the Eric Johnson signature strats, a lot of times I'll have to go back and put a string tree or two in, even though they come stock with staggered tuners. So in the quest of getting as much wrap as possible, lowering the point that the string leaves the tuner as much as possible, sometimes I'll like tighten, loosen, tighten, loosen, tighten, loosen, and be pulling on the string to try to get it to seat a little bit better, get more wrap on the string, as opposed to cutting the string shorter. I want as much wrap on there as I can get. So because the strings were a little loosey-goosey before, I'm gonna bring all the strings up to tension, make sure the heights are where I want, and then I'm gonna evaluate the nut slot to make sure the strings are fitting appropriately. We very may well have had a thick set of strings on here before, and this was a set I didn't put on, so it might already be set up for this gauge to some extent. So we'll treat it business as usual, then go back and evaluate. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go back and read the note that was left. I want to make, all right, I'm tuning this wrong. So we want C sharp, F sharp. This needs to be a B. And an E. There we go. Cool. Cool. Nothing better than a fresh set of strings on a jazz bass. I'll tell you what. This one I've heard live on a number of occasions, and I don't know if it's the quarter pounder pickups, if it's whatever bass overdrive customer uses, but this thing sounds huge and awesome. And just great and fantastic. All of the adjectives can be used to describe this bass. Okay, so I always have my old pack in front of me. My quick little trick to judge, make sure I have even string heights across any given nut, whether it's a mandolin, 12 string, a bass. I'll press down the third fret and see how much gap there is between the bottom of the string and the top of the first fret. I just barely want it to bounce off the top, and that's how I know it's pretty much set. I'll come back with this little thing. I think is supposed to be a tire tread depth gauge of sorts, and it has been modified to fit over strings, guitar strings, bass strings, what have you. And it's super handy. I can zero it out with the feet on the fretboard. The business end is resting on top of the string, and then if I press it down to the fret, I have that distance in between the top of the fret and bottom of the string. And so that's a good way to make sure I'm getting a measurement I'm happy with. It's good to go off feel, but it's nice to have like empirical data that kind of backs up what you're thinking. These pretty much are all 28 thousandths, which is good for a bass. I know this one will be, because it's used with lower tunings and usually a pick and digging in real hard, I want ample space so the strings aren't rattling off the first fret. So with that in mind, I do not want to lower the the nut slots at all. I just want to widen them ever so slightly. So my first string is a 65 thousandths. I'm going to use my the same gauge of nut file and just go back and forth. I typically will put some pencil in the bottom of the nut slot just to see what I'm doing a little bit easier. So I can remove all the lead from the side, but I want to stop when there's just a sliver on the bottom of that fret slot. And these fret files are rounded, so they'll create the appropriate profile on the bottom of the nut slot. I'm angling the file downwards towards the end of the headstock, but not steeper than the angle of the string as it breaks across the nut. So it's somewhere in between flat and pitched all the way down. Not only does that make a better a flat landing space for the string, it also helps to make sure you're not going to run into the headstock. I haven't done that in a very long time, and I don't intend to do it ever again. A lot of times having your other finger on the tip of the file as a guide helps. Just lightly going back and forth. If you, when you're getting to the end, try not to use like any down pressure at all on the file, so you can feel where it's catching. Where it's catching means there's a little bit of friction, and we just want to gently take that away so the string doesn't have any friction as it passes through that nut slot. The number one source of like tuning woes for people is friction right up here. So we're going to go back and check, make sure we have our same measurement, and it is down to 20 thousandths, which is perfect. A lot of times, to make sure to test further that there's no friction at your nut slot, you can bend behind the nut, bend the string as long as it's stretched out, which these definitely are not since we just installed them, it should return roughly to the same pitch within a couple of cents. I don't worry about it being perfect because it's not often people are bending behind the nut. All right, so I'm calling this one done. No side-to-side motion. I can see the bottom of the string is perfectly hitting the bottom of the nut. Moving on. I'm gonna take this out of the string tree, wrap it. Well, sometimes it fits behind the next string. This one's gonna be a pain. So a little bit of pencil, bottom of the nut. Next gauge is 80 thousandths. I don't like that these files don't have a lot of the common strings, so I'm going to use a 75 thousandths file, and you can wiggle it side to side to make up that extra thickness. It's another, axis of rotation, which is kind of tricky, as we're still going to make sure it's, just the perfect angle down. We're rocking it too flat at the front while still maintaining side-to-side motion to make up the 5 thousandths of an inch in difference. Making sure we're not using too much pressure so we sense when there's a bit of binding. And we're stopping when there's just a sliver left at the bottom. And we're right at 20 thousandths again. That seated pretty well. Nice. Next string, 100 thousandths. Closest I can get is 105 or 95. I'm going with 95. So this nut slot isn't all that deep anyway, so I think this will be good for this bass. The bass strings on pretty much every instrument I work on, I want to be like half in, half out of the nut slot. That goes for electric guitars, acoustic guitars, this bass, and then the treble strings can be fully inside the nut. If I'm doing like a one from fresh, from a blank, I'll leave the old strings on, and when my heights are correct and I'm going into the shaping process, I'll leave the strings on and sand and file the height of the overall nut with the old strings on. I can destroy those, that's fine. I'll take a flat file, and on the bass side I'll go until I like flatten the top slightly, flatten the wrappings, and then I'll go on the treble side just until I nick the top of the strings. I'll take the nut out at that point and then finish my shaping. This is an F sharp. And finally our C sharp. So we're going for 130. I got a 125 file, so that's going to be perfect. This might not need to come down much at all. Oh, never mind. It's it's definitely a size discrepancy here. So this is a super common little modification to make. It doesn't have to be as extreme as, tuning down multiple steps. It could just be you want a slightly thicker gauge of string. Fender, for example, slots all of their electric guitar nuts for 9 gauge strings. a lot of people play 10s, and that can cause a little bit of binding. So even if you're tuning the same pitches, you still want your strings to fit well. So just running a file through them can be beneficial, or just running an old set of strings through. They're round wound. They have a little bit of, that's why you get the squeakies. They have a little bit of texture to them, so you can use them in a pinch if you're just widening a nut slot. This one's reading at 20, still 28,000, so I like that. We're sighting down the neck to check our relief. There's a little bit more than when we started, which I was happy about. It was a little bit too straight before. I like to measure my string heights in millimeters, about 3 millimeter on the bass, about 2 on the treble side. We're going to take that down just a hair. Oops. So I usually start with my outside strings. Always checking your measurements in the playing position. There's a lot of neck hanging out over here, so gravity will have an effect on the position of the neck. So it's only about 1/4 millimeter on the bass side. We'll take that down. Another 1/4 mil. I want 2.5. A little bit more. Perfect. So now that we have the outside string height set, we'll come in with our radius gauge and make sure the inside strings are the correct height. I want it to buzz just ever so slightly off the bottom of the gauge. If it changes pitch when I remove the gauge, it's a little bit too high. One of the predicaments I have is with the radius gauge. We're measuring the tops of the strings, but they're all different thicknesses, so the bottom heights are going to be a little bit different. The radius underneath, I never really have reconciled if I should be measuring from the bottom, the distance that it takes the string to hit the fretboard, or from the top, the experience that your hand has as it goes over. So I just try not to think about it too much and just go about my job, because it's fine either way, I suppose. I think it's important to sweat about millimeters sometimes when it comes to instrument repair, but I don't think that's the right application. Cool. My only gripe about these instruments is the saddles intonate with Allen wrenches. That's dumb. Every other instrument does just a regular Phillips head. That's my one complaint to Fender. I'm sure they did it for a reason, and just because I disagree doesn't mean I'm right. I just don't like gritting another tool out if I don't have to. And then, last things, just give everything a wipe down. Making sure it shines up nice again. Make sure that control plate doesn't have any fingerprints on it. Sweet. That's a Base of Doom for you. Coming to a streaming platform near you. And yeah, that was a good day's work. I think I'm gonna go home and take a nap. And we'll have Adam sign us off. And
Oh, you can sign us off.
I can sign us off?
You're signing us off.
Oh no.
You got this.
Okay, bye.
Keep her going and keep her good.
Keep her going, keep her good. Thanks for coming. I apologize. I'm not as fun as Adam. I'll never be as fun as Adam. And I have to deal with that every day. Goodbye, everybody.
Let us help you find your melody at Heid Music.